Greetings, Chad. Here are some of my thoughts on your first two projects. We'll start with the second one. Shutter speed. Apparently my computer's a little bit slow. I thought you had some nice explorations with the painting with light. I think this is a pretty dynamic shot, very interesting. I like the little focus here and then all the stuff shooting out from around it, and I'm really not quite sure what I'm looking at, but it doesn't really matter because it is quite interesting and engaging as it is. It's like some scaffolding and stairs, but very well thought out, planned out, explored, as is this one. Very effective, interesting, engaging. The circular form is, especially with the reflection, definitely interesting. And I think this one, the grayscale, I think a painting with light usually just works better in color. I certainly could work well in grayscale, but I like this one better in color, as I do most with the painting with light. This is technically very well done, nice panning, following these figures, nice blur of grass, elongated form. So I'm not sure if I'm engaged with this as art or just a merely good technical exercise, but it's well done. Grayscale works too. Color might have been just a little bit more dynamic. This image is alright. It's nothing too dynamic going on. I'm not overly engaged with it. I'd be more curious if you get closer to the figures or something like that. It's just kind of snapshotish, and not particularly compelling. This image is a little bit more compelling. I like the little ghosty outer shadow of the dog from moving. I like the autofocus dog behind it. I do like the dog bones on here too. I'm kind of wishing some of this other visual clutter wasn't in the shot. If we could focus more in on the dogs or something like that, I think it might be a little bit better. And I don't see a way to crop it. Just it would have to be a different angle or something like that to get rid of that information. All right, let's see if we can find your other portfolio. Look at self-portraits. Like that self-portrait quite a bit. Yeah, this is really nice. The wispiness, seeing the wind and the green. I even like this landscape back here, where it becomes very less saturated in the foreground than your figure in here. It's a very nicely constructed photograph, interesting, engaging, like it a lot. I think these, the ones you did with water, are also fairly intriguing and interesting. Good to push that. I think this is the look in the eyes and the gaze up here, kind of creepy, but interesting. This one's also, I think, very interesting. I almost would like a little bit more of this information up here, the tub. And then I really like the form, the water flowing through here, and all this chaos here, and the figure down below, and then the very quiet, static nature of this. I just like just a little bit more so you can see the whole thing. But it's good. This is fun and playful too. Nice playing with the optics and the way it plays and the depth of field, and very well constructed image. So good job on all these. Certainly looking forward to seeing more. I like the early explorations I see for your final project. All right, let's move on and do another person. Looks like Sandra is up next. Photo stream 1. I guess we'll start with oops. We'll talk about your first assignment here, since you're set for that one. We'll see if we can find some other stuff later. Pretty nice portrait, like the direct gaze into the camera. Seems a little overexposed here. The highlights in the cheek and the forehead and down here. just seems a little less exposure, a little quicker shutter speed, or a little smaller aperture, something like that. You might even be able to just do it in Photoshop too. Maybe it'd be better if you had something like Camera Raw. Could even work a little bit better to maybe potentially capture some of this information. The shadow here is kind of interesting too. I'm not sure what is creating that, but it is kind of curious. I like the painting as a backdrop, and I like how the shirt works in very well with the colors of the painting. So I think it's pretty well done. Just some slight technical problems. This one I think I'd rather see some sharpness here in the figure, or hands maybe. Or actually the hands I think would be really good if those were sharp. And we get stuff behind it out of focus. That may be a bit more of a challenge. But I'd rather see the focus here than on the wall behind you. So that's my opinion. I like the composition though, and like everything that's composed. I just think maybe shifting that could be more interesting. Again, I like the composition. I like the greenery, the chair, the positioning. I like that this pole over here, I think if we get rid of that pole, there's a little too much focus on you. So I like the push of this, and it's almost a little parenthetical with this pole, and you in the middle, and the horizontals, and the green. So I think it's actually very well composed. It works well. This is probably my favorite out of all of them. Just like the more space I see, this relationship between you and this sort of artificial environment, the intensity of your gaze, the gaze going off here, the nice light hitting you. I think everything works out well, and I think it's a very well constructed portrait. All right, let's go on and see if we can find some more of these time projects here. This one, I think it is interesting. I like a little something more static sometimes. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on this one. Like I kind of like all this stuff. It looks like there's a figure here. It appears, the path, the grass, and it almost feels more painterly, almost impressionistic here. And it seems almost intentful, and I kind of like it on that sense. But usually I like a little something with something sharp in here. So I'm fighting myself. So I'm kind of on the fence with this one. I'd be curious to see if there are any other comments or thoughts on that from other people. This one I think is kind of interesting. Actually, I'm still a little bit more engaged with the previous image. But this works out pretty well too with the dog. This one seems just a little blurry. I'm not as engaged with it. I do kind of find this curious, and this, and the streaks, but I have nothing like to grab onto. The other ones I got a little something. That first one, I felt there was a figure there, something to grab onto. This one is kind of losing. This is kind of nice. I kind of wish the snout was in focus or sharp. Maybe the dog moved, something like that. And the background to me seems kind of cluttered. And I could have thought about that a little bit more better. These are, I think, kind of interesting. Like the basement. I like the fact that I see just a little bit of beat here, and these lights swirling. I could have, I might think to add more of a interaction between the light and the painting, or some of the other objects here could have pushed it a little bit more interesting. It's not too bad though. I do kind of like the composition and these things too. So, let's see. The previous one's better technically done, and I think probably overall better done. So I'm not as engaged with that image there. A lot of the background is clever. See, I actually like it a little bit better with the background when it's gone, and I see the legs here, and this one's more sharp, and this one's a little less sharp, and so I actually like how you manipulated this in GIMP, Photoshop, or whichever program you used to do this. It'd be interesting to see you try that in with the color version, if it worked out as well or not. Color might have another dynamic element. This one actually kind of like better in black and white. I actually kind of like this. I just really love the lines that the legs are creating here. It was really kind of interesting panning image, and there's just a little bit of sharpness here in his head. This one I think is probably the most successful panning image I've seen. It's almost borderline painting of light too. But I like this. I like the head is really dark and the light is here in the highlight. That's I think a really interesting part. This one just seems kind of scribbly and a little overexposed. So that's interesting. That's funny. Very playful and funny. I would actually crop it like right there. And it almost looks more like a head of a dog than a person. Something's off here, white balance or something, or maybe intentionally did that red light. It doesn't really have anything going for it, I guess. All right, so those are some of my thoughts, Cassandra. Looking forward to seeing more.